I was cracking up last night, Baltimore, Kansas City. There was a point in the game where like Kansas City had a 10 or 15-yard game, and the game was played in Baltimore, and there was just this loud fake crowd noise that exploded. It's like, no, they're playing in Baltimore. You're not going to hear that in Baltimore, right. Maryland last night. So something that not only the executives at ESPN have to deal with, but across the country in the world of sports. Bring in Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, did you get a chance to watch the Monday Night Football bout last night?
Indeed, I did, and I'm proud to say that my team won. And I think you can go on NFL.com or in their MLB.com and just hit cheer and things like that. And so if a bunch of Chiefs fans are watching the game and they hit a big pass, if enough of their fans hit cheer at the same time, it sounds like, everyone's happy. And I actually think that's pretty cool. But I also don't like how loud some of the stadiums get, fake, artificially loud. And I'm concerned going into Saturday that it's going to be cowbells.
Fake cowbells, yeah. So we were talking
not happy.
Just a moment ago, and you were in the stadium on Saturday. What was the actual atmosphere like? Because I'm sure by now you've went back and watched some of the TV broadcasts. They kept the cameras pretty tight on the field, and I can't remember very many shots or pans of the stadium itself. It was very limited on what you could see as far as outside the playing field.
Yeah, the east side stands looked like it was the pockets were pretty isolated. I mean, I guess a reference point would be that Kansas State game that was the first one against Arkansas State. It was just so shockingly populated on the student side. But Arkansas kept its students segregated in groups of 2s and 4s, and looked to me like they social distanced pretty well. And I did not see big masses of folks. And so, what 16,500 people look like when a lot of them are in the suites and stuff, it looked pretty thin. It looked to me like there could have been more people in the crowd and the social distancing guidelines still be observed. But I know that they went over that very closely in terms of 6 feet apart in every direction from every pod of people. And if COVID restrictions relax a little bit as the season goes along, they might revisit and remap the stadium and allow more folks in.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned that, and we're speaking with Tom Murphy here on the Morning Rush. Hunter Yurachek was asked about that in one of his press conferences a couple weeks ago, and he says that they're kind of leave that up to the state guidelines, leave it to what's going on in the world. Do you foresee a scenario where more fans are allowed in Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium this fall?
Yeah, it really all just depends on what the numbers look like, and if we go to the next phase of reopening, so to speak. So I don't know. I mean, so many of the things that have been said during this have been off base or didn't come to fruition. And we heard that there'd be like a resurgence in the fall when things got cooler. I don't know if that's true now or not. But if there is, then I would imagine that they would not expand the population base.
Hopefully it's as true as it'll go away in the summer with the heat. So, that didn't pan out either. So, all right, let's get to the game itself. What were your observations on Saturday? Obviously, Arkansas was very competitive for 2 quarters. It slipped away from them by the third quarter, and Georgia had the game in hand in the fourth quarter. What were your observations that stood out most to you, Tom?
Well, the Arkansas O-line didn't get a lot of movement, and so they couldn't unleash Rakeem Boyd. He certainly tried him between the tackles, but everything was just clogged up there, and they tried to get him on the edges. I mean, they had a game plan. Rakeem Boyd was not going to be the guy who beat them in this game. And Georgia is just so experienced and fast and strong on defense, it made things tough. I've heard people being very critical of Kendall Briles' game plan, but I thought they had a pretty decent game plan. They attacked deep several times. They got a pass interference on one. A pass interference got wiped off. I don't know why, but that did lead to the Traylon Burks touchdown on the next play. The slant patterns to Mike Woods early in the second half were just right on target. It just goes to show that a lot of the work they did in the summer paid off, that Franks to Woods in tight coverage, and Woods held on to some really zipped passes that moved the chains and, led to a field goal drive. First play of the game, they throw a little screen pass, an inside screen to Boyd. If Ricky Strongberg's head is on more of a swivel and he looks to his left, he'll see Monty Rice camped out ready to go attack that play. And if he gets in front of him or blocks him, it could be a huge play, because it looked to me on the right side, Noah Gatlin had his guy kind of screened off. But Rice bolts in behind Stromberg and makes a play at the line. So just a little more situational awareness will help them. Obviously, the defense ran to the ball very, very hard. They shut down the between the tackles run game of Georgia for the most part, and it's something to build on. I mean, it wound up being just about what the Vegas point spread guys had it as being. But you could see they left a few points on the table when they drove inside the 5, and the turnover, the combination of the block punt and the pick 6 was the backbreaker, and it's those types of things that when you become a more veteran team and kind of create your own breaks, that you avoid those things.
Defensively, I don't think it can be stated enough. I thought the tackling was better, just the fundamentals, and just the actual coverage of receivers was better this year. What did you see as you kind of watched this defense?
Well, that's what I saw. I saw the linebackers coming up and plugging plays right at the line of scrimmage, which you guys have heard me say. I thought that was something Arkansas had to get better at in linebacker, and they did that better. I thought the D-line held up also as well in the first half. They got some pressure on Mathis, and I told y'all on Thursday, got to make Mathis uncomfortable. I think they succeeded. The interception pass to Brown, he just was. You could tell he was just a little out of rhythm, and he threw wide of his receiver, and Monteric Brown intercepts it. Numerous other passes, they pressured him, and he threw away. I thought he probably got away with an intentional grounding when he threw one really deep. On the 4th and 1, they got pressure. Grant Morgan came in and kind of disrupted the play, and then Bumper Poole and Greg Brooks were there to clean up and get Zamir White or James, the other running back, down before he could get to the marker. And Georgia hurt itself with some of the bad snaps, but I thought the coverage was better. In the second half, when the pass rush got a little bit slowed, and Stetson Bennett had time to survey the field, and he was calm, they picked him apart a little bit. So that's the concern in this upcoming game against Mississippi State, is guys running loose in the secondary and just how well they can cover. But it will help that you get McClellan and Bush back, and Joe Fouché is really going to help the secondary against Mississippi State on Saturday.
Tom, that was going to be my next question, with the addition of those guys and Soley coming back for this game. When you're playing a team like Mississippi State, who I believe Costello had like 63 pass attempts against LSU, how important is it for the Arkansas secondary and Sam Carter to get those guys back for the Bulldogs this weekend?
Yeah, really, really critical. And Mike Leach doesn't give a rip about balanced offense. If he can win it by passing. So I think Costello had 5 runs and a couple sacks. So I think it was 65 pass plays and 11 or 13 run plays, really imbalanced. But they really attacked LSU. And so that's why they've got to rotate. They've got to be able to rotate guys in. So Soley coming back, that will help. Got to keep fresh attackers getting after the quarterback. And then on the DBs, it's the same thing. You know, you're covering guys, you're running play after play, you're backpedaling, you're turning, you're running. So they have to be able to. A guy like McClellan will help, no question about that. They got to be really good tacklers in space, and this is going to be a really interesting game to see what Barry Odom can cook up in terms of blitzing and in terms of confusing Mississippi State's blocking, and just see if they can make KJ Costello more uncomfortable, because LSU didn't do that enough.
Tom, Kylan Hill had 158 receiving yards, not rushing yards, receiving yards against the LSU Tigers. How is Kendall Briles going to be able to get Rakeem Boyd involved in the passing game on Saturday night?
Yeah, they tried against Georgia. They were just so fast, and they had the spies on Boyd. It's a combination of having to honor the other receivers, blocking things up well, and like I said on that one play, if Stromberg could get in front of Monty Rice, then Boyd can be on the loose. But what I liked is they did a lot of the motion stuff where you try to read what the defense is going to do if they're in man or zone. And I think they're on point right there. It's just going to take a little bit more experience and repetition and just getting the hat on the hat stuff. And Boyd, I don't think I saw him running free in that game. And that's a little surprising. You'd have thought they could have got him free a couple times, but it will start happening.
Tom, before we let you go, it is National Coffee Day. I know you drink coffee in the mornings. What is your favorite go-to cup of joe?
Well, we just kind of keep it simple with the name brands. But every once in a while, we'll drop in some of the lattes and stuff like that. I'm pretty standard when it comes to coffee, but I do need it.
Tom, appreciate it, man.
We'll break the game down a little bit more on Thursday because I got some good observations on what I think Mike Leach is up to. See y'all.